Thanks so much for that. At the same time, senators are now asking President William Ruto to reduce the number of cabinet secretaries to 14, scrap the office of the prime cabinet secretary, and deal with wanton corruption in order to restore public confidence. Now, in a heated bipartisan session, members collectively described the country's leadership, them included, who are completely out of touch with their electorates. And as Emmanuel Toh now reports, the senators unanimously rejected the salary increment that had been proposed by the Salaries and Remunerations Commission. Take a listen.
All of us, let us rise and observe a minute.
It was a session of reflections and introspection as the senators took stock of what had transpired in the country following weeks of deadly protests.
Order number 4. Petitions.
One by one, the senators who broke party affiliations took to the floor, each giving the account of how and when the rain started beating the current government, with the majority leader Aaron Cheruiyot proposing a draining of the swamp.
Where this thing has reached, Mr. Speaker, it needs an overhaul. I am afraid that not the usual glue and gum that we put into areas that are leaking will solve this time. It's completely broken.
If it was working, some of the ministers in office today would not be ministers. They became ministers because a corrupt parliament allowed them to become ministers, and then the DPP followed it up by withdrawing their cases.
His colleagues in the government benches joining in the fray as they led an offensive against their own government, training their guns on the Inspector General of Police.
That the Inspector General of Police must be called out for failing to provide leadership, Mr. Speaker, for failing to morally and legally even update the country on security situations, Mr. Speaker.
During the deliberations, Parliament's wastage, planned and misuse of public resources was laid bare.
There is 377,000 Kenyan shillings on my ETC. Members of Parliament, the staff of Parliament have to be honest with Kenyans. In the way the budgets of Parliament are prepared, there are ways and means of reducing the expenditure in this House in a manner that will reduce the burden on taxpayers. I honestly do not need all that money. Even if I ran up and down the expressway for a year, I would never exhaust 370,000 Kenyan shillings.
The senators coming up with their own demands to President William Ruto, including scrapping the office of the Prime Cabinet Secretary.
Dissolve cabinet, reconstituted. Mr. President, disband offices outside the Constitution, including CAS, including Prime Cabinet Secretary.
Reduce the size of your cabinet from 21 to 14, the minimum. Merge departments. Reduce the number of principal secretaries from 51 to around 30. The size of the cabinet in the US is 15. With a population of more than 340 million people.
The lawmakers also rejecting the salary increment that had been proposed by the Salaries and Remunerations Commission.
Vile watu wanasema kwamba ati mishahara inaongezwa. Bwana Spika, mimi nasema kwamba sitaki mshahara wangu uongezwe. Si wakati mzuri sasa sisi kuongezwa mishahara. Haifai, hatuitaki. Tumekataa.
Mr. Speaker, if it means taking a pay cut, we as members of Parliament, Mr. Speaker, good people, we have been told that it's not possible, that members of Parliament will never do it. We don't have an option. We must do it, Mr. Speaker.
Emmanuel Toh, Citizen TV, Nairobi.